By the way, this is our confidentiality. Our confidentiality agreement is that there isn't any confidentiality because I'm recording, and I'd love to put this on YouTube. So if you'll mute, please, that would be great. So hello, everybody, in person and on screen. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the first ever Call Off the Thought and Sing. I'm going to light a candle to welcome our humanity, our reality, our voices, our hearts, our bodies, our times, these times we find ourselves in, and remind us all that none of us have to be anything other than what we are and how we are right now. If you need to be horizontal, be horizontal. If you need to get tea, get tea. Gratitude for these ways that we can come together and these voices that we have. Gratitude for the people who are showing up tonight to sing and speak and share themselves and dare to be heard. And welcome to this long adventure that is Call Off the Thought and Sing. We begin. So we're going to begin with a bit of settling. I've got to unmute so that you can hear me. So we are unmuted, but I'm the only person speaking right now. So let's just start by all settling in together, and a great big welcome to you all. We'll feel our feet if they're on the ground and give them a wiggle. Give them a wiggle so you can feel the sensations in the soles of the feet. Is it working? No, okay. We're having some tech issues here. And then feel the weight in the sit bones and shift from sit bone to sit bone so that you can feel your own body weight resting there. Hi, Mum and Dad. Welcome. How fun that you're here. So we're just settling the body. We're settling the nervous system to start. So feel the weight in the sit bones and give them a shifter so you can feel them. Let the awareness travel up the spine and take a nice deep breath, slow exhalation. And one will make any kind of sound on the exhalation. Beautiful. Soften the sides of the tongue. And come into what we call owl eyes, which is where you take in all the periphery of your visual field. So welcome. So the idea of this, oh my goodness, that's intense. So the idea of this event series is, I was thinking about touring, and I was thinking, who would I want to open for me? I was thinking, I would like the founder of Extinction Rebellion to open for me. I would like Gail Bradbrook to open for me, and I would like everyone to hear her voice. And sometimes when I sing about paradigm shift and I sing about the times we're in, I can see people be full of emotion and full of experience, and I want to hear people's voices, and I want people to be able to talk. And I felt, gosh, what I really want to do is find ways to integrate discussion with musical performance, and in a way that is inviting everybody's voice, so the audience isn't just quiet, but the audience can sing, and the audience can speak, and the audience can turn to each other and have little conversations, and then the performers can sing some more. So this event series, Call Off the Thought and Sing, is really like an online exploration of that, and it may grow into offline. We have some prepared people for you who are our featured speakers. Will you raise your hands? We have Will Grant in the house from America. Will you raise your hand, Will? Yeah. We have Tim from Suffolk. Will you raise your hand, Tim? Oh, our Zoom is weird. He can't raise his hand. We have Lana in Totnes. We have Kate in Totnes. We have Nick. And I'll say I'm in Stroud right now. And I'm in a house full of improvisers. And we're having an improvisers reunion. And so there's going to be lots of people singing for you tonight. And for those of you who Marcia, Sophia, you're with us in spirit. So first of all, we're just going to have a tiny little warm-up, and then I'm going to play the world debut of my music video, Die Every Day, and it's beginning the album launch. So first of all, just wiggle your body, and have a little yawn into your mouth. Because the idea is that you sing. I think this evening it's you're on mute, but hopefully as the event series go, you're going to be more off mute. So stick your tongue deeply out, deeply in. Inhale into your nasal cavities and just like make some noise. Have a little sing. I think everybody here is going to sing. You can just sing along with it. I'll just sort of show you the room. It's sort of, I don't know if you can see, there's sort of some people around, some singers around. We're going to focus on them a bit later. Yeah. And so one thing that we like to play with as vocal improvisers is a thing called creature language, where basically you talk nonsense. You kind of go, so I invite you to all just talk a bit of nonsense right now. Let's practice. Go ahead, everybody. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's bring that to a close. Now you can sing in creature language. I'll demo. You kind of go. Now everybody's voice sounds different, so just have a go right now at singing in creature language, and we're all going to in this room, and it's going to sound chaotic. Off we go, just for like a minute. Beautiful. So the next thing is just to feel your heart. And just bring your awareness to your chest, and your heart might start being touched this evening. I hope it will. I hope this evening touches your heart. And we in this room, we're going to create a drone for you. And I invite you just to let your heart just speak or sing a little in creature language right now, and just sing whatever it wants to sing. So we'll hold the drone and you solo on mute. I think we can harmonize a little bit for you if you can hear us. Beautiful. So at various points we're going to say, let's call off the thought and sing, and it means, okay, enough words, let's switch modality, let's just let our voices do the talking. Tonight it'll be on mute, but hopefully as we go, less and less. So I think it's time to share the music video. So this is the beginning of me sharing the album with you, and so some of you want to come here, we can pile in on this sofa a bit. And nobody apart from me and the filmmaker has seen this. So we're beginning. And just to let you know, basically this album, these are all my students who are becoming friends and improvisers and yes. And we don't have enough Wi-Fi for everybody to have laptops, so they're just, bless them, they're here without the screen. So now they're piling in to see. So each of the songs on the album came as a complete improvisation, which we then took into the studio and added instruments to. And so this is the beginning. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, it's not there. Okay, I'm going to just have a little moment for some technical. Whoa! No, not that one. That's later. Okay. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to get so much more fly with this as it goes on. Share sound. So Yaka, do you know if I mute it, can we still hear it?
As long as you're showing computer sound, that should be
Okay.
the case. People can give you thumbs up.
Okay. So I'm gonna. Okay. Let's just be quiet. Okay, here we go. The level's okay. Is it loud enough? Will you give me a thumbs up? Okay. You better die every day like a rose. You better run on the hill like a horse in the wind and the pouring rain. You've gotta give it away, let it go, as an offering to the wind. Fall every day like the rain, and roll down the hill like the water's pouring from the drains, and join the river. And join the bigger river, and let yourself flow to the sea. Die every day like a rose, and give yourself away like her petals. Shine every day like the sun. When the fire is burned, then it's done. Then it's done. You better die every day like a butterfly after you have given yourself to the cocoon and shown all your colors to everyone. And then it's your time, and then you're done, and then you're done. Why not sing your prayers out loud once in a while? Why not let your gratitude be heard out loud? Why not pray out loud? In the garden of my first summers, in the garden of my first summers, the house was big, the windows open wide, the kitchen door left open to the summertime. The apple tree was bursting with the autumn fruits too sour to eat. Now, but I'd sometimes try, and Mama's coming up with a smile and a boy
washing's drying on the summer line, and the trees are secret, and I love their roots, and I hide away there with my songs and my dances. Muddy on the English earth, and this grass stays on my summer dresses, and no one minds for the grit and the blood on my knees always. Hold my hand, I need your help to walk here. You my father, you my mother, you my sister. Every day, like a rose, giving her petals away, fall from the sky like the rain. Throw yourself on the earth, roll down the hill and join the stream. Become the river, become the sea, become the clouds, become the waters, become a part of everything
Oh, it's still going. Hang on, I've got to stop it. It's still. Oh, where are you? You're here. I stopped it. Thank you so much for watching that with me all together. And yeah, we've got some sing something we're going to say. Do you want to make some noise? You can unmute if you like, if you want to make some noise. And I'm like, oh, it's really exciting.
So beautiful, Briony. So beautiful.
Yeah, wow.
Lovely, really tender.
Really loved it. Yeah, fabulous.
Exquisite.
Mesmerising. Thank you. Woo! So it's exciting to launch that with you. And so...
Well done, Briony. Well done.
As my mum and dad, you featured in the lyrics, those two. So excitement and depth and art and meaning, and let's all just take a minute to make some noise if we want to, and you can unmute or not, but with our voices. Let's do some creature language singing. So I'd love at this point to hand over to Alana Bloom, who her partner Matt pointed me towards Pondfield. It distorts when we all go for it. Thank you, Sophia, for letting us know. Okay, we'll figure something out. Pondfield is a regenerative agriculture and community place in Devon, and Alana is involved there, and she runs a program called Regenerating Rhythms, which is about inviting us back to a cyclical way of life. Alana, I'm going to set the bell for 5 minutes, and you can speak a bit less than that or a bit more than that. But Alana, I'd love you to speak to winter, to loss, to decay, to Samhain, to equinox, to the 8 Shields, and Alana's also been on 8 Shields weekend, and it's the 8 Shields is, some of you who know me a bit better in my spirituality, I draw very much from the wheel, the north, south, east, west wheel, and it has properties, and it's a sort of a navigating map for life, and so this song definitely sits in sort of the northwest of the wheel. It's about the experience of shedding. It was a breakup song. Gene, my ex-boyfriend, and I improvised it as we were breaking up, and this relationship that had so much promise was not working, and we just had to let it go. You just had to fall and fail and go into the unknown and grieve and these aspects of life that are real, but we're often not quite sure what to do with them. So, Alana, what say you?
Well, I'll see what wants to emerge through me in the 5 minutes that I have about many of the topics you've just mentioned. Yeah, I mean, something that has been coming really strong for me recently, and I keep kind of circling back to, it feels like our relationship with death and our relationship with dying, and and I think about that on the micro level, like what is my relationship with dying, what is your relationship with death, and also on this kind of wider level of our culture. And I say our culture, I'm talking of a kind of Western overculture, and what's our relationship with death? And when I think about that, I feel as though it's a little bit in the shadows. We don't have a relationship with it in the sense that we wake up every day and we think that this is something that is going to happen to me at some point. This is something that's going to happen to most things that I love. And if that is the truth, or if that is a place that we move from, how might the world be a bit different if we had that, if we woke up with that realization, if we lived with that realization? And that inquiry, I feel, has been bringing me closer to my relationship with food, with animals, with my soul, with the cycles. Like, that question has opened up many, many portals and possibilities for myself. And I feel as though that portal continues to be opened through the cyclical work that I'm engaged in, because I see time and time again how death is such a gift. Dying is a gift. When we think about everything that dies so that we can live, everything that is returning to the soil so that soil can have nutrients, so that soil can grow plants that we can eat so we can live. That whole cycle like absolutely blows my mind when I actually think about it. That, you know, looking at autumn and how the leaves are just in the surrendering process of okay, I will let you go, and all of their leaves drop, but how those leaves are, you know, taken into the soil and decomposed and transformed into nutrients. And you see, where I've been over the weekend, it's a beautiful pine forest, and there's mushrooms sprouting up everywhere. Mushrooms, these amazing beings that are there to create life from death. And so the more that I see this relationship, how everything that dies is feeding life, I see how there are so many ways that we've been cut off from that we've stopped those cycles. If we think about, you know, our food waste, for example, like our food waste is like gold. It's nutrients that needs to go back into the land and into the soil to create more food. But, you know, imagine how much of those nutrients are thrown in landfill. And that's just like one example of the ways that I feel we've torn ourselves away from these incredible cycles. I think about the process of one thing that I've worked with a lot is the cycle of a seed and the cycle of a plant. And, you know, in spring, it's bursting forth and rapid growth, and summer it's blooming, and then you come to autumn, and then there's this fruiting and creation of seeds. Once more, from the seed, more seeds are created, and then the plant lets go of those seeds. It looks to the future, it lets go, it dies a mini death, a little death, in order to let new life be possible. So yeah, these are some of the things that have been stirring in me when I think of my relationship with dying and with death and with the cycles. And I wonder, I kind of have a curiosity how we might find those little portals, whether it's the question of the memory, the connection to the reality that I will die, that things I love will die, that life is not possible without that. And what do I want to leave behind when that happens? What kind of trail do I want to leave behind me? I often think that I really want to be buried so the mycelium can take hold of my body, and I can really go back into this incredible process, and that my bones and my muscles and my fascia can become roots and trees and food for birds and other beings. And that's actually a really big piece. Like, what if we were buried without chemicals in these ways, that we can truly return into this mysterious, magical thing that we are part of. So that seems to be what wanted to move through me in this moment. I hope that resonates. That's what your song evoked in me, Briony.
Yeah.
Thank you for writing it.
Thank you so much, Alana, and thank you so much for speaking. You know, one of the nice way to like give appreciation on Zoom is just to make a shape with our faces or our hands over it. It's like something to Alana to say, like, thank you, we hear you, we appreciate what you're saying.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Appreciate. I'd like to hear one more speaker, and then I think we'll move over to speakers. Will Grant, he said, please can I go late? But I feel like it's your time to speak now, because, you know, when I hear Alana talking about the mycelium network and these cycles and the web of life that we're part of, that we've stepped aside, it makes me think, what times are we in, and what in our culture is dying away so that something new can grow out of it, like the mushrooms in the pine forest. And I wonder if, Will, if you'd be willing to speak for about 5 minutes off the top of your head to how you see that, and what's happening to West Coast US culture. Is that dying as conditions are changing? And what times do you think our culture is in terms of something dying and something else wanting to be reborn? Will Grant is a dear friend of mine. He works for the Pachamama Alliance in the US. He used to be a world history teacher at a really posh private school, and he's one of the most, do you know what, my dad used to be my go-to person for history because he studied history at Oxford until I met Will. And then, sorry Dad, he's not at the screen, but then Will, so I won't compete, I won't compare, but then Will did great. Will.
Thank you, Briony. Thank you for this gathering. When Briony asked me to speak about this, my mind went to the connections between personal senses of transformation and loss, and the uncertainty of standing at the ending of something before I knew what is coming, and the sense of how much of my time I spend thinking and working on that, about what's happening for us at a cultural, societal, and planetary level. And, you know, as Briony said, as I'm just looking at what's happening globally with climate change, with the death of ecosystems as a whole, and wondering what possibly comes next. And that is something that just pervades the thinking of most of the folks that I know, or the feeling, I should say, it pervades the feelings of most of the people that I know, if not the thinking. And then something that Briony alluded to is that, so I've lived in California for 15 years, and California has always been an important part of my life. I went to college here, I left, I came back, and just the idea of California has been huge in me. The sense of social innovation and creativity, the sense of the fervent belief and skill in creating a new culture, from taking the best of the old and inventing something new, of everything from new ideas of gender and sexuality in the queer liberation movement, to the politics of Black Panthers, to the hippie communes, to permaculture. There's just so many elements where California is an incredibly rich field. And so that's why I've lived here.
The vocal improvisation, like the lineage that we practice and do, was basically created in California. Sorry to interrupt.
So there's so many ways in which I think it's been the center, a global center of people coming together to recreate and to create something new. And over the past 5 years, the fires have just become more and more extreme. And I think people have maybe seen this on the news, but to be in it is, it's kind of incomprehensible. To go outside and I can't breathe the air where I live. And my lungs have deteriorated over time to the point where when the smoke comes, I have to stay inside with an air purifier. And so everything that it means to be in California about being outside and being in society and connection is rapidly degrading. And almost everybody that I know in California is starting to think of, where do we go and what do we do next? And I have been knowing that I've needed to leave for 3 years, and I keep not leaving. I'll leave and I'll come back, I'll leave and I'll come back. And what I realized finally was that it was just too large. It was too large for me to comprehend what it would mean, because I realized it wasn't just me leaving California, I was letting go of the idea of California. And with that, it makes me think about the sense that, what does this mean in history? And how I've been thinking about, as somebody who, like Briony said, I used to teach world history, and it influences a lot of my work. And I think about how this level of social change has actually been such a deep part of human history from the beginning. And that this is climate change in other times, but it's also colonialism coming into Africa, Latin America, and Asia, and just utterly wiping out cultures within the span of 10 years. It is the Mongols invading. It is the closing of the commons and the ending of a way of life in England, right? And my thought, I was thinking about how in this period of stability in the global north, to some extent, there's been this foundation of economic stability that has allowed for so much of a different way of being, a sense of like stretching into the possible, of playing with the edges so much. And my feeling is that a lot of folks and a lot of cultures have lost the ability to factor in death and ending and massive uncontrollable change as a skill in the way things go. But then I also think about how my freedom as a queer man was created by the death and ending of cultures that came before me. That the freedom of the women that I care about around me was created by the death of an entire social order that completely destabilized people in that. The freedom of people of color destabilized the social order. And I can look at it as progress, I believe it is, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't the ending of something that other people held fundamentally dear in their whole sense of how they would orient in the world. And it occurred to me that I have no idea what's coming next. And I wanted to end on 3 levels. One is that I read something called the California diaspora, which is the idea that the horrid politics of the United States, which is so much shaped with the fact that all the progressives live on the coast, but that gives political power to the entire middle of the United States. If 20 million people have to leave California and disperse across the rest of the United States with our knowledge of how to create social change and rebuild culture, if we go with our sense of innovation in our networks, and if we go with our sense of enormous amounts of California money, like the entire politics of the United States changes and transforms. And that's one possibility. I don't know what happens. And if that happens, what does that do to global politics? And I was reading something, just a meme on the internet, and it said, look, if the world is ending, I could spend the next 20 years in grief, but isn't that a waste of the time that is left to me rather than celebrating where I am now? And that I have absolutely no idea about what's coming next. And it may be that the next chapter in my life is the most phenomenal personal chapter that I have, and that the comforts that I've held have also been limitations on me. And that as I get to move into new places, what connections await me? Would I rather have stability? Yeah. But since it's not a choice, what is my relationship to this change? So I'll pause and I'll stop with that.
Speak, well, speak. Wow, thank you. I love you. It's so nice to see you again. Thank you for speaking on this. So I think it's time to call off the thought and sing. Obviously, singing involves some thinking, but thank you, Will. Thank you, Alana. I want to ask the people in the room who feels like doing a supported solo. And while you just organize yourselves, and I think it's time to sing. I'm going to mute, and I think it's time for us all to just sing a bit. Just make some noise, some creature language, something. Move your body. Just somehow digest how those 2 talks and everything is landing on you. I'm going to mute while we just all make some noise. That's my dad. He just said a minute. So is Emma's Zoom on? Is that working? Yes. Who'd like to do a supported solo and who'd like to be in a band? Let's treat it like we just
I can be in
did.
a band or do solo. But
Well,
I quite fancy band too.
Sing, but I don't. Yeah.
well, go on then. So, as they get set up, what I'll say is these themes of skills to navigate massive, uncontrollable change that's too big. It's too big to. Hey, listen, improvisers. You know, you don't have to like sum that all up in a song. You just are invited to do what you know how to do, which is be in the unknown. Yeah, and dare to open your mouth and see what comes out. And this is it. And this is what we do as improvisers. We hang out in the unknown. We all have no idea what's going to happen next. And it is like a little death, because the terror that we feel that's saying, don't do this, I'm definitely not on camera, I'm definitely not recorded. We have to let that die, and we have to go for it. And then something happens, and we ride incredible uncertainty. So do you see the film, the frame called Improvisers? So I invite you to go to it, and or if you do view in the top right hand corner, you can view speaker. So I say go to view speaker. In just a moment, I'm going to mute, and we're going to go over to them. And I want you. This is so we've got Namvula, Maz, Emily in the center, then Tara on the right. Yaka's the tall guy on the right. Yaka's the producer of this album, by the way. Yaka is one of the reasons. By the way, Yaka's the reason I made this album. He was my marketing guy, right? And we had this meeting in East London. And he said, Briony, I could do all these marketing things for you. But he's like, really, the thing that would really market you is like if people hear you sing. Like, how can people hear you sing? I was like, oh, they would have to come to our living room. And he looked at me, he's like, you don't have a living room. I was like, oh. It's like, Brian, I think it's time to put your work down in recording. And he's like, I'm a producer, I can help you. And so the work of the album began. So thank you, Yaka. So now they're just all going to improvise, and we don't know what's going to happen. They're probably bricking it right now. Those people are terrified. So let's beam them our love from all over where we are. They're just going to stand in the unknown and see what comes.
Okay, you should now hear us. Can you give us thumbs up if you can hear us? Brilliant.
Yes. This is it. The void, the blackness, the space everything comes from and goes back to. This is it. The precipice. The precipice that everything arrives in. Everything. Life pushing through the dark soil, the dark compost and death, the debris of our lives, the debris pushing through, and life comes from here, yeah. I feel alive on the edge, on the edge, on the edge. Oh, what comes next? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. When I go back, let this die, 'cause it kind of feels a little, I let this go.
Oh, congratulations. Should we? Yeah. So this is a thing. I'm part of the Californian diaspora, and I learned vocal improv in California. And then it was time to go. The rivers were emptying. The land was full of thirst, and it wasn't a place for the future. And I didn't really know where else to go but back home. And so I sort of stumbled back home, like not really knowing what I would do, and taught a retreat as I would when I would visit. And I was like, oh, what do you all need? And they were like, we need a year-long course. We need to properly learn this art form. And so I started to really teach it. And so I sort of brought an art form that was cooked in California to Britain. And all these people are like brilliant at it. And I love this. Oh. What should happen now? Is it time for some dancing? Do you need to move? We've been sat quite still for some long time. So up in the corner, sitting there quietly, very nearby, he could almost be in this house, is Mr. Nick Powell. Yeah, Nick's an amazing musician. I've known him since I was 25, and he started dating my housemate in Hackney, and he's now married to her, and they have 2 beautiful children. And we'll hear from Nick afterwards, but I'd like to play you one of the songs from his new album. Basically, Nick, he makes music for theatre. He's an amazing live improviser for theatre, and he composes and stuff. He basically wrote an album about a pandemic and collapse before the pandemic, and then produced it during the pandemic. So in the middle of the pandemic, there's songs about pandemic and collapse. So I'm going to play one of those songs now. I'm going to put it on my YouTube and screen share and hope that it works. I invite you to move, get up and move your body, and we'll probably keep our video on and just move. And have a wee but don't have a wee. Listen to Nick's songs. And we're going to move our bodies. So bear with me a moment. This is always the kind of it takes a minute, doesn't it? Share sound, out of key, da da da. It's just key. Nick, your thing just plays automatically. Wow, it does. But why can't I hear it? Oh my goodness, I'm having a screen sharing. Can we hear it?
When all these streets are gone, it's just carry on. True and round and blue, it will know what to do. Starting all the fires, digging in the sand. I gotta get to the heart of something. Nothing understand, nothing to understand. None of it was planned. Digging deep into the sand, there's nothing coming down the wire line. Spanning fires into the sand. Gonna get to the heart of something. Nothing understand, none of this was planned. Dust follows dust, dust follows dust into the end of something. This whole world gets down upon its knees, singing cure me, but if you can't cure me, then catch my disease. A wide world falling on its knees, singing out of tune, we're out of time. How did it slide so far off key? This whole world is down upon its knees, singing heal me, but if you can't heal me, then have my disease. The whole world falling on its knees, singing out of tune, we're out of time. Did we slide so far off key? This town is long gone. Some things carry on. Just try not to care, 'cause we will not be there. Because we'll not be there. Pulling at the wires, staring in the fires, digging in the sand. I gotta get to the heart of something. Nothing understand, nothing to understand. None of it was planned. Digging deep into the sand, there's nothing. Cutting down the wires, lights, panic buyers, heading to the sand. I'm gonna get to the heart of something. Nothing understand, none of this was planned. Dust follows dust, dust follows dust until the end of something. This whole world gets down upon its knees, singing cure me, but if you can't cure me, then catch my disease. A wide world falling on its knees, singing out of tune and out of time. Did it slide so far off key? This whole world is down upon its knees, singing heal me, but if you can't heal me, then have my disease. This whole world falling on its knees, singing out of tune, we're out of time. Did it slide so far off key? This whole world gets down upon its knees, singing cure me, but if you can't cure me, catch my disease. A wide world falling on its knees, singing out of tune and out of time. Did it slide so far off key?
Ah, did you all have a nice boogie? Yeah, so Nick, incredible song. This whole world gets down upon its knees saying heal me, but if you can't heal me, catch my disease. We're out of tune, we're out of time, something until we're not so far off key. And I think you wrote that all before the pandemic. It seems incredibly prescient. What would you like to say?
I don't know. I haven't really prepared anything, so this is just I'll just sort of. I think it was. I started writing the album just because of all the things your other speakers have been talking about. I was really feeling all those things, and what I do is I write music to process stuff. So, but I mean. It certainly didn't feel like a manifesto or anything. And in fact, the whole thing about disease was meant to be a metaphor. So that obviously became absurdly literal further down the line. But so I think like the song itself, I just had, it was the summer when all the like the school rebellion started around climate change. And it just started, I just got that sort of lyric in my head just as it started going around my head. I had a sort of tune and the song just came out of that, trying to process this information also. And that really led into, I can sort of talk about the video maybe more coherently, because that in a way became a reflection on what I'd already made. And so, again, it's not a manifesto, so it's just a selection of things. And I suppose the things that inform it were in the face of this sort of I was interested in the idea of apocalypse and what apocalypse looks like to a child, which is why we then staged a Monopoly apocalypse. So something that was contained within the frame of a game, like a game that children might play, but it was actually like a sort of medieval apocalyptic sort of end of the world scenario. And then the little girl in the videos, I think it'll be obvious that's my daughter. So she's lip syncing to the song, and within the video is we just transferred a load of cine footage from my family from the 1970s to DVD. So it was the first time I'd seen this old footage of my family. So the whole sense of generational shifts in the face of, major change in the world, that was what was going through my head. And actually, so the video ends up featuring 4 generations of my family. And like part of the stuff in the 70s was actually me making a sort of apocalyptic sci-fi film with my parents pretending to be killed by sort of alien death rays in I think it's 1977. So that really interested me. That I found fascinating, that in fact they were part of a film. Little did they know it, they were becoming part of a kind of music promo that wouldn't be finished until 2021. That I thought that was sort of fascinating. And what else did I find? The idea of the past as a quality of light. I felt that cine footage really spoke to me about that. So I got interested in that. Also featured in the videos are lots of the maps of war damage from World War II. My parents were both eventually ended up in London through the bombing in World War II, and that seemed to be linked to my sense that things were ending and in transition in our time. And parenthood, I guess, and the idea that like having my daughter sort of lip syncing the words and then us sort of doing it together, that felt quite profound. So those are just the things that were going through my head. I'd rather just say it as a list of things that I was sort of trying to process rather than pretend that I had a great coherent manifesto around it. I mean, I feel, what songs and lyrics can do really well is kind of float around a subject rather than, I'm not sure if I'm interested in them when they feel too dogmatic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the rest of the album sort of continues along those themes. So it's not God forbid, it's not a concept album, but I found myself returning to the same preoccupations in that period.
I actually singing on your album. I went to studio. Wailed horribly, and he took 10 seconds of it. What's your album called, Nick?
It's called Walls Fall Down. Yeah, which I guess does that in itself, touches on what some of the other speakers have been talking about. I really found it very interesting what you were both saying. It seemed to chime in exactly with where I was coming from. Really.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for being here tonight, and thanks for sharing your
Thanks for having me.
Beautiful work. And also, Nick and Lucy hosted me in their house last summer for a couple of weeks while I was in the studio making the album, and so it's nice to read all these threads together. And
yeah, definitely nice to have that.
And now come around. For tea, I'm here for a week. I'd love to switch over to Tim now. I think it's a nice follow through. So Tim is an incredible human, becoming a dear friend of mine, quite a new friend. He lives on land in Norfolk, where he's been taking care of it for 18 years. And to be honest, I think Tim's been quite reclusive. I would say, like a reclusive, deep, poetic artist, taking incredibly beautiful stewardship of land and 2 daughters. And he's now a bit like my senior. I feel like we who are like paradigm shifters, edge walkers, culture pushers are sort of like mycelium rising at the moment and daring to like become audible, become visible, become edible, rise and speak and show up. I think Tim's very much doing that. He now runs a podcast called The Listening. And so, Tim, I wonder if you could riff off some of Nick's themes of, you know, his lyrics like, we're out of tune, we're out of time, something, something, until we're not so far off key. And I feel like you're a man who at one point you see the scale of the brokenness that we're facing in these times. And you have part of the key of coming home and the rhythm of the land, the love and the caring and the intimacy with the land that is maybe part of our homecoming or part of what's calling us at these times. What would you like to say?
In this moment, I'm reminded I have a body. As I feel the jangling in my gut and the tremor of my heart. Yeah. My mouth's full of soil. That's what it is. My mouth is full of soil. And yeah, my nails are full of soil. The lines in my fingertips are ingrained with it now. And I feel it. I feel the soil. The soil is where it's at right now for me. And perhaps always has been in this time I've been here. It's autumn. It's the season of death. Everything is quietening down here. Plants are becoming still. The leaves, the flowers, it's all withering, it's all dropping away, falling. It's being let go of, it's being given up. There's no holding, there's no struggle, it's just release. It's quietening down, it's going into the marrow, into the root, into the heart. Withdrawing, pulling back. Stillness towards death, not away from it, not thinking about it, not dealing with it, receiving it. That's what's happening. And that's what I'm feeling is happening with the culture, with the human layer that sits on top of the soil. It's dying, and it needs to die, and it needs to go. And in my experience of the confusion of that, of the fear of that, of the grasping for something to hold on to and make sense of, the soil keeps speaking and reminding me that I have feet, that I have roots, that I am connected, that I am a flower of the soil. I am soil animated. I am coming from that place and connected so profoundly to it and to all of life. And my thoughts, my opinions, my ideas, my beliefs, they're just leaves that are withering and need to drop. I can let them go. They can fall. They can fall to my feet. They'll be composted, like everything is, eventually taken back. There's nothing to be done. There's nothing to be done. It's acceptance. It's acceptance and it's relief and release. And what's coming next is not our business, because it doesn't come out of our heads or our thoughts. It will come out of the ground through us. Yeah. Nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be avoided. Too quick. We're too quick to try and create the next thing now, quickly, quickly, patch over the death, let's go to the next thing. No, stop, let it go. Take all its fruits, all its richness into the compost. Let it go. Yeah, and the space in that and the relief of being back in the body, in the root, right down in the gut. The silence up in the branches of the mind when the leaves have dropped. No more thinking. Yeah. More conversation, more connection. From the heart, from the gut, from the feet, from the soil.
Tim, so beautiful. Should we make a shape for Tim, to Tim? That's the time. I feel like this would be a beautiful segue for some more singing. Who feels... Jakob, you want to solo? Oh, you want to be... Yeah, you're welcome to. Okay, 5 people who would like to sing. And Tim, it's beautiful to feel the earth quality in what you're saying, in your being, in your tempo. And when you're saying there's nothing to do and trust the earth, you know, as improvisers, as vocalists, singers, there's nothing to do. We trust the air. And we listen to it for the music, and we breathe in, and we put some sound on the outward breath. So the improviser's coming back. Yak is going to do a supported solo. Just before he does, I want to see... Yeah, thank you, Tim. Feel a deep sigh within me from those words. Me too. Yeah, what Alana said. Thoughts fall away like leaves landing at my feet. Okay, I'm going to mute and hand over to the improviser. Just a reminder, in your top right-hand corner, you've got view and you've got gallery, which is when you want to see all our faces, and you've got speaker if you want to focus in on the musicians or the speaker. Yeah, okay.
Just checking again that you can hear us. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Brilliant. As the sound passes through my veins, as the sound passes through my chest, I'm not searching for, I'm not finding anyone. The only thing that I am is an empty space, an empty container. Imagine that space, imagine the edge. ashes. Imagine the fabric, the texture, the edges of you. Step into, step into, step into, step into the light. What do you feel as the life passes? What do you feel as the breath passes? What do you feel as the blood passes through? Right now in your body with legs and muscles and bones and hands, shins and liquid. One more last look. One more last look at the container, the empty space within it, and let it rest, 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 and let it rest.
Oh, beautiful, you all. Should we give them a shape? So I'd like to follow on from this with, do you want to go up and join them? Or are you resting there? I think let's cool off the thought and sing a little bit for everyone. So we singers here with their mics on, we'll just do some toning, some simple harmonies, and invite you again to cool off the thought and sing, to sing your rest, to digest what you've heard, how you feel. Just a minute or two, and then we'll move over to Kate. So, Yaka, I'm going to turn my sound off, and you can turn yours on. Thank you, singers. Thank you all so much for your presence and your patience and your participation this evening. We're in our last 9 minutes or so. I'd like to pass over to Kate Joyner, who's been on a profound journey of the soul. She, like me, is hugely influenced by a man called Bill Plotkin, who basically thinks we all have souls, and our first attempt at adulthood puts us in one life that's a bit inauthentic and machinistic, and we have to let it die and unravel for something else, something more soulful, authentic to come through. And it's like, as we let things go, what new sap wants to emerge? Kate, thank you so much for being part of this evening. What would you like to say?
Wow, what can I say with that invitation? I really love just listening to the different flavors, and especially thank you, Tim, for the way that you've just, I feel like you were speaking with the transmission of earth in your voice, in your being. And I feel like this is in part what we are invited to when we're invited to descend into soul, and is to really listen to how the voice of the earth is speaking to us. And then we become the opportunity or the invitations to become beacons for the soul of the earth, the soul of the world, through the own vessels of our bodies. So, you know, as B was saying in the beginning, that requires like a dying of how we've known ourselves to be. And that dying is kind of like the conditioning and the ways that we've been indoctrinated into a system which is inherently at its roots like anti-life. And so we have to kind of deconstruct all of that programming and those ways of being that have us kind of divorced from this attunement with the deep soul, our own soul, which is like woven within the soul of the earth. And that's an uncomfortable process to go through. That's not an easy journey, but essentially all nature-based cultures know that that's like a necessary and imperative initiatory journey to embark on if we're gonna to really flourish into our true adulthood. So one of the things that Bill says in his models is like our current culture is arrested in patho-adolescent consciousness and mentality. And so that kind of dying to old ways, to that adolescence in us, so that we can really birth ourselves anew into like our true adulthood, which is where we become initiated into our soul life. It feels like that's potentially, you know, as I'm listening also to Will and to Alana and to Nick, you know, the apocalypse and you know, really feeling Will in California, and also have spent a lot of time in the States and also California specifically. And it just feels like so devastating that you're like, you know, you're really in the thick of it there. It's really upfront. Like we get news of this, but like, you know, we're relatively okay here in England still, but to be like like breathing in the smoke, you know, even my friends in Colorado are like telling me the horror stories, and it feels like, you know, the horror story of coming of that, like really like nature speaking to us, like this can't happen, you know, we can't keep going like this anymore. So it's like, how do we listen to that? How do we stop like the madness and really just allow ourselves to take that in, you know, and what that means for us existentially in our beings, to contemplate really the death of what we've known and to be able to stand in the void of not knowing what's coming next or how it's going to come, or even if we're going to survive as a human species, and be okay with that, like be resourced enough in ourselves that we can like confront that reality with like responsibility and maturity and like an acceptance of this is what we were born into right now. So I was writing something this morning about like forgetting the other world in this world. Like I feel like part of our current cultural condition is we've just forgotten the other world, and we need to, I feel, and part of the initiation process and the initiation into soul is really we have to leave the village of this nightmare of Western civilization. We have to traverse into the wilderness. And in that process, there's a death and a dying and reorientation and a different way of knowing ourselves. And then from the wisdom of the wildness, whatever the wild tells us, we then have to come back to the village and reimagine it and recreate it with that wisdom. And so it feels like that's, I've been 10 years, like I left the village 10 years ago and I've come back to my village 2 years ago. And it's like, okay, how do I come back with all of this that I've met and touched out there in the wilderness for the last 7 years? And how do I bring it back as food, as a way that could potentially serve, but also no guarantee of it actually working. So it's just constantly being an experiment of dying every day to not knowing. So anyway, that's what came out. So I'll just,
Thank you, Kate. Thank you so much. And Kate runs the Dancing Serpent Mystery School, which is a very feminine, earth-based mystery school. And she's based here in Devon. And Kate, I want to honor your courage of leaving the village and then returning with something pretty radical, very beautiful, and offering it to people and saying, would you like this? And I feel this is what we do as improvisers. We reach into the silence and we see what comes, and I've always been no guarantee, but we see what comes through. Well, my friends, my family, we're reaching our time. Does anybody want to come and be on the sofa? Are you quite settled there? We're in our last 2 minutes. How to close. Welcome to Call Off the Thought and Sing. It's been really potent and really beautiful to spend the last hour and a half with you. And it means a lot to me for you to all be here. Like there's Constance in California, there's Dave, there's Mom and Dad, there's Karen. I studied with Rhiannon with Karen. There's Lisa, she's one of my newest students. And there's all the singers. So thank you to all the singers for daring and for bringing your magic to all of us. Thank you for all the speakers for bringing your wisdom and your nectar to us. And thank you to everyone for showing up. And I'm sorry that you were all kind of silenced tonight, and it's not my vision going forward. I want you to be noisier. It's just honestly being here with all these singers, I was like, oh boy, we got to feature these people. Because this is but they won't always be here. We're having a reunion. So what should we do to close? It's the time. What should we do? Let's unmute. Let's make a shape. I don't know. Let's blow the candle out together. Let's unmute and hum. Thank you, Sophia. Brilliant. Keep humming, and over your humming, I'm gonna blow this candle out, and with it, give my gratitude to the fire, to the soil, to the mycelium, to the autumn, to the winter, to our bodies, to our voices. Magic, mystery, our lives that we navigate. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Dad, for life and everything. I can't see Mum.
here.
Thanks, Mum, too. And yeah, we do this about once a month. Details are on my website. I'll put all the speakers and everybody's websites on my website. It's brionygreenhill.com. And I'm going to put this on YouTube if you want to revisit it. And let's blow the candle out together. Much love, everybody. Good night, Brits. Good day to Americans. Stop recording.